Carl Jung, the power of being unavailable. They do not love you. They love the supreme convenience of you. Your endless kindness is not a beautiful gift. It is a devastating trauma response. Stay until the very end, and I will hand you the exact key to break out of this invisible prison you built yourself. Touching the abyss of emotional exhaustion. Close your eyes for just a single heartbeat. Do you feel it? That sudden, violent tightening in your chest, the irregular thud of your heart against your ribs, the cold sweat pooling in your palms when the harsh glare of your phone screen pierces the dead of night. A new message, a new demand, another grievance from someone out there who needs you to bleed just a little bit more so they can feel whole. You tell yourself you are a savior, a bastion of light in their darkness. But let me shatter that illusion right now with a brutally cold truth. You are not their hero. You are their hostage. And if you dare to stay with me until the very last second of this video, I promise to hand you the exact key to break out of this invisible prison you built with your own bare hands. The inner multiverse warmly welcomes you to this space of truth. If you find a piece of your shattered soul resonating with the echoes of our words today, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support is the vital pulse that gives us the motivation to continue forging these deep, transformative journeys. Now, breathe out. Strip away the exhausting facade you wear so well. You brush aside the bone-deep fatigue gnawing at your very cells just to type out a comforting reply. You play the eternal caretaker, the one who never falters. But ask yourself this one merciless question. When you finally collapse into pieces on the floor, who is there to pick you up? Have you ever stared at the ceiling in the suffocating silence of your room, feeling like an entirely hollowed-out shell? You have wrung out every last drop of your life force to serve as an emotional charging station for the world. You smooth over their fragile egos. You swallow your own voice to keep their relationships peaceful. Yet that peace belongs entirely to them. While you are left sitting in the ashes of your own ruin, you have systematically reduced yourself to an emotional rag, a disposable piece of fabric for people to wipe away their confusions, their anxieties, and their mess, only to be tossed back into the dark corner once they are cleansed and satisfied. I'm not standing above you on some arrogant pedestal of a flawless psychologist casting judgment. I am sitting right beside you, down here in the pitch-black depths of this profound fragmentation. I know the exact bitter taste of swallowing down tears of sheer resentment. I intimately understand the cruelty of handing over everything you have, only to receive a vast, echoing void in return. We used to be exactly the same. I used to believe the grand illusion that if I just gave enough of myself, they would not abandon me. I blindly trusted that endless sacrifice would somehow purchase genuine love. Do you know what that is? It is the most colossal, magnificent lie we have ever fed our own minds. The agonizing exhaustion paralyzing you right now is not a tragic accident. It is the inevitable, mathematical result of a relentless series of choices that fundamentally betrayed your own soul. The time has come to completely dismantle this lie. Do you have the sheer courage to strip away the mask and look straight into the terrifying true face of what you call your kindness, the anatomy of a people pleaser, and the trauma of compliance? To look straight into that terrifying face of your own kindness is to confront the silent ghosts of your past that first taught you love was a currency you had to earn. You were not born into this world with an insatiable compulsion to fix everyone around you. That was not your inherent nature. It was your conditioning. Somewhere along the timeline of your life, perhaps in a childhood environment that felt more like an emotional minefield than a safe sanctuary, you absorbed a devastating lesson. Your safety and your value depended entirely on your absolute utility to others. You became hypervigilant out of sheer necessity, evolving into a masterful expert at reading the shifting micro-expressions of the people around you. If you could somehow anticipate their rising anger, preemptively soothe their unspoken sadness, or seamlessly mold yourself into the exact shape they required, you might just secure a fleeting, fragile moment of peace. You convinced yourself that this exhausting hyper-awareness was a rare, beautiful gift of heightened empathy. But let us strip away that romanticized label and call it by its true clinical name. a deeply ingrained trauma response. You are not sensing their needs because you possess a mystical intuition. You are sensing them because your nervous system is trapped in a permanent state of high alert, endlessly scanning the horizon for the next emotional storm you are responsible for neutralizing. This is the hidden, tragic anatomy of a people pleaser. It is a brilliant, but ultimately destructive survival adaptation. You systematically stripped away your own needs because having needs made you a target. It made you vulnerable, and vulnerability was a dangerous luxury you simply could not afford. You assigned yourself the role of the universal peacemaker, the invisible, desperate glue holding broken people together, believing that if you just proved your indispensable worth, they would finally see you. You hoped that through sheer exhaustion, they would finally cherish you. But when you build your relationships entirely on the shifting sands of your own self-erasure, you do not cultivate genuine love. You cultivate intense dependency. They do not love the complex, flawed human being that you are. They love the supreme convenience of you. They love the undeniable fact that you require absolutely nothing in return. And the most agonizing layer of this entire dynamic is that you are painfully aware of it, yet you feel entirely paralyzed to stop the cycle. The mere thought of setting a firm boundary, of simply letting the word no roll off your tongue, triggers a primal terror within your chest. A deep-seated, paralyzing fear that if you ever cease to be entirely useful, you will permanently cease to be loved. The silent erosion of your authentic identity. Yet, this desperate survival mechanism you perfected in the past is now actively suffocating the adult you are so desperately trying to become. The true, sweeping tragedy of constantly shape-shifting to fit the dark voids of others is the silent, devastating erosion of your own authentic identity. I want you to pause and ask yourself a terrifying question. When was the last time you actually knew what you wanted, completely independent of what would make someone else comfortable or happy? You have spent so many agonizing years silencing your own intuition and burying your deepest desires that your inner voice has been reduced to a barely audible whisper, drowning beneath the roaring, endless demands of the outside world. This is no longer just mental fatigue. This is a profound, existential famine. You look into the mirror and find yourself staring into the vacant eyes of a stranger. Your days bleed into one another in a grayscale blur of draining obligations, where every single interaction feels like a heavy transaction, siphoning the marrow straight from your bones. And within this suffocating, hollow emptiness, a dark, toxic seed begins to take root in your spirit. Resentment. It starts small, as a quiet frustration, a fleeting spark of anger when your phone aggressively buzzes with yet another manufactured crisis. But slowly, inevitably, it metabolizes into a heavy, acidic bitterness that courses through your veins. You begin to secretly despise the very people you are tirelessly martyring yourself for. You hate them for carelessly taking advantage of you. But in the deepest, most fiercely guarded corners of your mind, you hate yourself even more for consistently allowing them to do it. You realize with a sickening, cold clarity that you have willingly handed them the master keys to your emotional kingdom, and they have thoughtlessly trampled all over your throne. The physical toll of this betrayal becomes entirely undeniable. Your shoulders carry the literal weight of unshed tears. Your stomach ties itself into tight, anxious knots at the sound of a specific ringtone. And your sleep is violently hijacked by the phantom arguments you are too terrified to have in your waking life. You exist as a walking paradox. You are desperately, profoundly lonely, despite being constantly surrounded by people who passionately claim to need you. They desperately need your energy, your counsel, and your endless patience, but they do not know the real you. How could they possibly know you? The real you is securely locked away, starving in the dark, continually sacrificed on the altar of a false, fragile peace that is slowly killing you from the inside out. The revolutionary act of disappointing those you love. When you finally recognize that the knife slowly carving away your identity was placed in their hands by your own desperate need for validation, you must make the terrifying, radical choice to take it back. This is the absolute pivot point of your entire existence. This is the exact moment you must learn the excruciating art of disappointing those you love. I will not offer you sweet platitudes or sugarcoat this brutal reality. Taking back your sovereign power will initially feel entirely indistinguishable from committing a violent crime. The very first time you say no, the first time you draw a firm, immovable line in the sand and refuse to be dragged across it, the guilt will crash into your chest like a suffocating tidal wave. Your conditioned mind will violently rebel, screaming that you are being inherently selfish, cruel, and heartless. The people who have spent years comfortably feeding off your endless, uncomplaining reserves will push back. They will employ masterful guilt trips, they will weaponize their tears, and they will look at you with deeply wounded eyes, asking why you have suddenly become so cold and distant. Let them be disappointed. Let them be angry. Their anger is not an indictment that you have done something morally wrong. Rather, it is the ultimate, undeniable proof that your boundary was desperately overdue. You must fundamentally rewire your psychological understanding of what a boundary actually represents. It is not an aggressive, barbed wire wall built to permanently isolate you from humanity. It is a sacred, necessary fence constructed solely to protect the precious, fragile garden of your soul. You are absolutely allowed to lock the gate. You have the inherent right to decide who gets to walk through it and who must remain safely on the outside. You must become entirely willing to be cast as the villain in their temporary self-serving narrative in order to finally step up and become the hero of your own life. This transformation requires an ironclad resolve to sit still in the extreme discomfort of their displeasure and forcefully resist the urge to rush in and fix it. When they present you with their dramatic chaos, you must learn to stand firm, offering your calm presence perhaps, but absolutely refusing to carry the heavy cross they built for themselves. This refusal is not a lack of empathy or a deficit of love. In fact, it is the absolute highest form of love, both for yourself and for them, because you are finally forcing them to step into their own emotional adulthood instead of treating you as their eternal bleeding crutch, reclaiming the sovereignty of your shattered soul. As the turbulent storm of their initial disappointment finally settles and the superficial, parasitic connections begin to inevitably fall away, what remains in the quiet aftermath is the solid, unshakable bedrock of your reclaimed self. This is the sacred space where the true, profound alchemy of your healing finally begins. When you courageously stop bleeding your precious energy into the infinite, hungry voids of emotionally unavailable people, something truly miraculous occurs within your biology. You finally accumulate the life force necessary to pour back into your own vessel. The hollowed-out, fragile shell you once inhabited begins to slowly fill with a profound, unyielding, quiet strength. You start to rediscover the vibrant colors of your own distinct personality, the creative passions you carelessly discarded, and the grand, audacious dreams you locked away simply because they did not neatly serve anyone else's demanding agenda. Yes, your social circle may become significantly smaller. The constant notifications on your phone might thin out to a trickle, and your weekends might suddenly feel entirely, beautifully quiet. But the relationships that manage to survive this intense, necessary purification process will be the ones firmly rooted in genuine mutual respect, not transactional dependency. You will finally experience the breathtaking, intoxicating liberation of being loved and held for exactly who you are, rather than for the endless, exhausting labor you can provide for them. You will definitively realize that you no longer need to perform, to fix, to manage, or to rescue, just to justify your right to breathe the air on this earth. Your absolute worth is intrinsic. It is divinely woven into the very cellular fabric of your being, completely independent of your utility to a broken world. I am looking directly into your soul right now, asking you to stand up from the bitter ashes of your own ruin today. Look closely at the heavy, invisible chains you have been dragging around for decades and finally realize that the lock has been broken this entire time. You, and only you, hold the absolute power to walk out of this self-made cell. Take a deep, intentional breath. Feel the absolute, unquestionable sovereignty of your own heart beating steadily in your chest. It beats for you first, before anyone else. The inner multiverse bows to the immense, rare courage it takes to embark on this arduous journey back home to yourself. If you are finally ready to stop living as the world's designated hostage and start rising as the absolute master of your own spirit, carry this unapologetic truth into your tomorrow. Your ultimate, sacred duty in this lifetime is not to keep everyone else comfortably numb, but to keep your own brilliant soul unapologetically alive. His journey from a chronic people pleaser to an empowered individual is a profound transformation that requires confronting deeply ingrained trauma. For years, you functioned under the exhausting illusion that your worth was inextricably tied to your absolute utility to others, sacrificing your own needs to maintain a fragile, toxic peace. This relentless shape-shifting slowly eroded your authentic identity, leaving behind a hollow shell burdened by silent resentment, profound loneliness, and existential fatigue. However, true healing begins the moment you realize that genuine love cannot be built on the foundation of your self-erasure. Taking back your sovereignty demands the radical, the most often terrifying courage to set firm boundaries and willingly disappoint those who have grown accustomed to exploiting your endless generosity. Initially, this will trigger intense guilt and resistance from a world that preferred your compliance. Yet, enduring this acute discomfort is the only way to protect the sacred garden of your soul. As you stop bleeding your life force into the endless voids of others, you reclaim the energy needed to nourish your own dreams, passions, and identity. The parasitic relationships will naturally fall away, leaving space for connections rooted in genuine mutual respect rather than transactional dependency. Ultimately, this journey is about unlearning the lie that you must earn your right to exist through acts of service. Your worth is inherent and absolute. By breaking the invisible chains of perpetual compliance, you stop living as a hostage to everyone else's needs and finally step into the unapologetic mastery of your own spirit. The profound lesson: see, connection can never exist where your true self is absent. People-pleasing is not a manifestation of pure kindness. It is a trauma-driven survival mechanism that breeds toxic dependency and silent resentment. Establishing firm boundaries and allowing others to experience disappointment is not an act of cruelty, but the highest form of respect for both your soul and their emotional maturity. Your inherent worth is not a currency you must continually earn through endless sacrifice. It is a divine birthright that exists entirely independent of how useful you are to others. Practical application in your current life. Rule: the next time someone asks you for a favor, your time, or your energy, completely banish the immediate yes. Instead, say, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." Use that time to sincerely evaluate if you have the emotional capacity for the request or if you are simply acting out of a fear of disappointing them. Normalize the guilt. When you finally say no, expect a heavy wave of guilt to hit you. Do not let that feeling dictate your actions. Treat the guilt merely as a withdrawal symptom from your addiction to pleasing others. Sit quietly with the discomfort and actively refuse the urge to apologize excessively or over-explain your decision. Audit your energy drainers. Identify the relationships in your life that feel entirely one-sided or transactional. Begin stepping back by reducing your availability. Stop preemptively offering solutions to their crises and let them manage their own emotional weight. Schedule mandatory self-devotion. Block out specific time in your week that is exclusively dedicated to your own joy, rest, or creativity. Guard this time as fiercely as you would a crucial business meeting or a loved one's emergency. A question for you: what is one specific situation or relationship where you know you need to say no, but have been too afraid to do so? Please take a moment to kindly share your perspective and experiences in the comments section below. Your honest answer might be the exact spark of courage someone else needs to read today to begin their own healing journey. If this message resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is incredibly appreciated and gives us the powerful motivation to keep creating deep, impactful content for you. Thank you for walking this path with us.